Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Major League Baseball for Friday, June 14th. Jake, back with us here to talk some baseball, but we've got an all-total show for people. Cousin Jared had nothing to do with this, but I assume that he is looking down from above, smile. Just kidding, he's not dead. He's looking over from the beach, smiling at you wanting to do an all-total show.
Yeah, like it just seemed right, like throwing out some love to Cousin Jerry there with all the totals. So just like, yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, I didn't even know which jersey to wear. As many of you know, I've got a lot of options. I thought about wearing a Braves jersey since you're a Braves fan, Jake, to commemorate them winning here on Thursday. It's their first win in 900 years, I believe. So I wanted to commemorate that, but
very sad this year.
Their offense has taken a big hit with Acuna going down, and the models obviously recognize it without his production. It's not as good. You have to wonder if there's something else going on there too. We talk about the mental aspect of baseball. It is a grind of a season, and there is some mental thing that I think sometimes statistics gets a bad rap because we wouldn't say as statisticians or sabermetricians or whatever fancy word you want to call people like me who try to quantify things, we wouldn't necessarily say that if we can't quantify it, it doesn't necessarily exist. I'm not saying that there is no motivation factor. I'm not saying there is no anything like that. I'm saying that on the aggregate, we can't measure it. But that doesn't mean in one-off situations something doesn't exist. And that's where we are with the Braves right now, that there's no real aggregate. You lose a player, another player start playing worse, that we've been able to define as this is what happens in general as a trend. For every time that happens, the team steps up and they play great without him, right? But that doesn't mean that there aren't these one-off situations where you wonder, where you say, what's going on with the rest of that team? And obviously you're a Braves fan. I don't know if you have any comments on that, but the offense just really seems to be, they seem to be hitting the ball hard right at people. So it's some bad luck, something with Acuna being gone. There's, something happening there, right?
Yeah, it feels like the whole rhythm of the year is off, right? Like there's a lot of pressure on that offense, 3 days of the week right now when their starters going, because we're pitching is rough. I mean, Lopez has been great as defined, and Sell's looking good, but Fried has bounced back and forth with his Strider.
Mostly good. Yeah, he's had a couple downsides.
Yeah, and Morton is showing his age finally.
Morton's been, I think I mentioned this on the show, the most hit or miss pitcher I could think of this year. It's like he either looks great or he looks terrible, and then whoever the heck the other guy is has not been good. Schwillerbach's maybe I guess looked okay this last start, but he hasn't been good for the most part. And they've had a bunch of other guys and they haven't been good. So yeah, it's an interesting time for the Braves, who just dominated the NL East, and of course now it's the Phillies, who just look fantastic and poised to win the division.
Who get a gift of a schedule? I think they've played like 7 teams with a record over 500. So
and I think that's why the model took a second to come around to them, was just kind of like, I'm not real, like the model at the beginning of the season. And I know some people have commented about this too. As the season goes along, it's going to weight heavier current season stats more and more. That's just the way it goes, right? Naturally. So yeah, every day it weights to this season a little bit more. And so the model's adjusted to that. But at the start of the season, the model was very much like, is this kind of real? Who have they really played? And we're not really going to overreact or whatever. But as time's gone on, they continue to look really good. But when you play as well as they're playing with the weaker schedule, that's how you have this ungodly record that they've got, right?
Yeah, I mean the Braves have done that for years. That NL East for a long time has been rough, and so I mean the Phillies are stepping in, but I mean Nola looked terrible tonight. I don't know what was wrong there.
He did. I made that comment to the Discord that Nola might actually be now down to the 4th best starting pitcher on the Phillies, according to Sideline, which is a little bit to say about how Nola struggled and not been quite as good here of late that he was maybe a few years ago. It also just shows you how good they're is, because the other 3 guys they have ahead of them are obviously Wheeler's incredible, but we've been high on Suarez and Sanchez as well. Real quick here, week to date, just playing around with some different things in the slides here, since we've missed a couple shows here, and it's harder for us to do a show for Thursday games. There's usually fewer games, and if there's not a lot of games, with lines out because of starting pitcher uncertainties, we had a bunch of starting pitcher changes on Thursday anyway that already kind of pushed a bunch of plays because our rules are everything starting pitcher dependent. We tend to recommend that most of your bets should be that way. That's how it works on all the sharp books as a default, and that's generally better. That doesn't mean you can't get lucky by the other pitcher being stressed. It's just you want to know where your money is and how it's invested, and you don't want to be left to chance if you might get lucky or screwed. We don't want that volatility. And so, hard to do Thursday shows. And so try this week to date thing just to kind of not have to deal with miss this show, whatever, which we kind of try to do a little bit. Anyway, bottom line, things continue to look good. The free show picks good. Play the day good. Play the day's 5 weeks in a row now winning. Like a 13% ROI or whatever in the last 2 months. After again a rough couple week starts there, the A grades that I'm picking out have looked really good this week, up another 4.5 units and a 5% ROI here since we reset the grading structure. The model, these are all the B grade picks and higher. Again, I'm the one who chooses the A grade picks. Just continue to truck along. This week, the full game totals have struggled, but overall still a 2% ROI and a really big sample size. The full game sides have done really well. But again, if you want all of these model picks, Dub Club is the place to be. Again, it's a little bit of an investment, but you'll get that back in no time, especially with the way these last few weeks have gone. You get access to Discord chat, ask us questions, hang out, enjoy life over there with memes and GIFs and whatever. All sorts of goodies over there, a bunch of projections, picks, links, everything you can imagine that I can give you is available on Dub Club. That link's in the show description. And a quick reminder before we get into it, picksprofessor.com/new will give you information about the rules of this community in the model. It is a player-based model. The ratings reflect the current roster, so injuries are in effect. So we're not talking about the Astros today, but obviously their offense loses a little bit without Kyle Tucker. We talked about the Braves. We're not talking about them today, but their offense loses some without Acuna, right? So this is not to say what they've done this year necessarily. It's what we project based off who's on the roster right now. Where the average grade is 100 higher implies more runs. Pitchers don't want to be in the hundreds. Hitters do. We are projecting an average game. One game is unknown. Weird things happen. And so we aren't trying to say we can predict what will happen in one game. We're trying to say in general, we have an idea of the probability of what will happen. And that's how we know what prices to bet. It's how the best minds in the game look at it. It's how the sports look at it, and how we're going to look at it as well. But of course, as always, take what you like and leave the rest. We're going to start off here. There is a day game on Friday with the Cubs. But we're going to start off with the what was once one of the most watched series in baseball, Yankees and Red Sox, maybe been the impetus of the pitch clock, because some of these Yankees Red Sox games that were like 9-inning games that lasted 5 hours lost a little bit of its luster as of late, because one or both of these teams has been a little bit down in the last decade or so. This year it's the Red Sox, who are just kind of okay. The Yankees are fantastic, and Luis Hill has been incredible here as a rookie. 90 grade, number 38, starter of all the healthy starting pitchers in baseball. Brian Bayo not far behind him. Two good pitchers in this one. Relievers are very decent. The Yankees relievers maybe getting a little bit more healthy, but again, a lot of their good numbers come from being in a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark. Fenway, not a pitcher-friendly ballpark. It is a high park factor, 106. It's one of the more hitter-friendly ballparks in the country, of course, outside of Coors. But it's also going to be a nice night for hitting here in Boston. The weather affects games there a little bit less than anywhere else because of the fact that home runs are not the main way that runs happen in Boston. It's doubles and singles and weird stuff with the Green Monster. But that said, it's still going to be a nice hitting night, around 70 degrees, which is a fairly warm day for Boston. You don't get a lot of temperatures warmer than that for baseball games. Wind blowing out to right center field at about 10 miles an hour. So a great atmosphere to hit. And of course, the Yankees offense, we think, can put up some runs. This is really about the park more than anything else. The pitching is very solid. It's no insult to the pitching. It's just in that park. We've seen this Yankees offense when the when the weather is conducive for the hitting, the park's conducive for it, we end up seeing a lot of runs. We're projecting 9.7 runs. So we're going to lock in over 9 at -110. Jake, what are your thoughts on this one?
I thought when I first saw the over without looking into it with these two pitchers, I was kind of shocked. But then as I started looking into it, both these offenses are heating up. I mean, Lord, both teams can go over this number by themselves and have in the last couple of days. I mean, I think that last I looked, the Red Sox had 8 on that was against Nola there, and I think the Yankees were putting up crazy crooked numbers against the Royals just in the last series. So, I mean, with the way the night is and the park, and the Monster always ends up making a fly ball be a pop fly ball be a double, and then that leads to another batter, and it inevitably ends up being a run. I just think we're going to get a few more of those with these offenses the way they're going, especially with Tyler O'Neill back for the Red Sox. I think he makes a big difference in the lineup when he's healthy, because he's a very good player. He just can't stay on the field more than 5 games in a row. But I think we're getting a ton of runs in this one.
The Red Sox scored 8 on Wednesday. They're at 9 and counting on Thursday as of the time of this recording in the evening, which is a little bit unusual for us here, but schedule, dictated that. And I think that's kind of the bottom line is that as good as the Phillies pitching has been, starting pitching has been, relievers has been, the Red Sox getting 17 runs of counting in 2 days is a lot to do with the park. The Red Sox to me are kind of like a little bit like the old school Rockies. The Rockies offense this year is terrible. But for the last several many years, the Rockies offense hasn't been good. It's been subpar, but when you put them in Coors Field, they're like at the top of the leaderboard because of that park. And the Red Sox not quite like that. Of course, Fenway's not quite as extreme as Coors Field is, of course, for hitting, but it's kind of the baby version of that here, where it's like, yeah, they're not that good on the road. I don't really trust that they're going to put up a ton of runs, but in that park, like you said, either team can score a bunch of runs. We've seen both of these teams get to this number here in the last 2 days. Obviously, the Yankees had a few less runs on Thursday afternoon, but put up plenty of runs earlier in the series. In Kansas City and Boston are very similar with regards to how the park plays. So not trying to predict exactly what will happen. Don't really know who would score a lot of runs necessarily. Just saying it's like you said, it's very possible that both teams do. 4-4, we have the push protection. A lot of reasons to like over 9. This number should be 9.5. They should be looking at that park, the Yankees offense being incredible and daring you to go over 9.5, at which point I would pass. But 9 at -110 offers us a lot of value. Speaking of the Phillies, they're going to take on the Orioles here at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. Upper 70s for this one. Wind will be blowing in at 5 to 10 miles an hour. It's going to play a little bit more pitcher-friendly than usual. Again, it's become a more pitcher-friendly park since they moved the fences in. This one's going to be a little bit more pitcher-friendly with that breeze blowing in. It's going to knock the balls down a little bit more. It's going to potentially turn a home run into a double and a double maybe into an out. Maybe a home run into a warning track fly ball that could be caught. And so that breeze blowing in is going to make the pitchers look a little bit more effective, and they've done a good job themselves already. Ranger Suarez, again, we talked about all show already, 181 ERA, not that good, but a 262 FIP and a 269 xFIP is incredible. He looks fantastic. Kyle Bradish, only half the starts because of an injury, but a 262 ERA, a 178 FIP, and a 277 xFIP. Both of these pitchers are really, really good. The model gives them both 80 grades, puts them both in the top 15. The way they've pitched this year, they're top 10 pitchers. The model's putting them a little bit behind a couple of other people, but they're right knocking on the doorstep of top 10. But these guys both look really good. Now, both offenses are really good. The Phillies offense, been fantastic. The Orioles offense, fantastic, up to number 3. So it's not that these offenses can't hit. But when you look at the Phillies and the way their relievers have gone, the Orioles bullpen at least being okay, a pitcher-friendly ballpark. We think the pitching's going to win out here. We're projecting 7.3 runs, so we're going under 8. Jake, tell us more.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's the pitchers. I mean, Bradish is very, very, very good. We haven't get to see much of it, but he's that kind of level of good. And Suarez has been incredible all year. And I hate giving the Phillies compliments because their relievers are incredible. Their offense is good. Like they're a very, very good team. And I think the pitching is just going to dominate this park. What you said with the breeze and everything coming in, I think this is going to be like a 2-1 type game because both these teams can really lock it down. I mean, the Orioles bullpen has the talent to be better than what they're showing, and I think they'll eventually find it. But it doesn't matter when you got starters that are holding teams down in offense like they have. That gives you a lead. You don't really have to. There's not that much pressure on the bullpen. I think there's not going to be hardly. It's the complete opposite of the Boston Yankees game. I think we're going to get next to no runs, but it's still a fascinating game because these guys dueling on the mound will be incredible to watch.
If you're a little bit worried about the relievers, especially the fact that, Craig Kimbrell can be involved, he's been pretty good this year. He had that one stretch where he looked really terrible for 3 games or something, but I think he's actually been okay this year. He's been a guy that's just been all over the place in his whole career, it seems like, from, best reliever in baseball to how is he even still in baseball? He's been on that roller coaster back and forth 9 times, I think. So if you are looking at a first 5, that could be an interesting market. That market isn't out yet, so we can't talk about it here, but we do have all that information on Dub Club if you are looking for the first 5 projection, and if that gets the model stamp of approval. And a lot depends on what the number comes out out at. And so that's something that we will discuss, of course, over on Dub Club. But as always, shop around not just for the best price, for this best number too. We talk about totals, talk about first five totals as well. I see a lot of places where you'll see a first five total of 4, and some books will offer 4.5, and some will offer 3.5, and you've got different odds on that. If you're shopping around, you can sometimes find really good deals. And if you're with us over on Dub Club, if you have a question, send that over to me via our baseball chat. Everybody else wants to hear about that too. Ask that question. We'll talk about it, and we'll kind of say, hey, here's why we should do this, why we should do that, or we'll sometimes just say split it. So a lot of discussion over there on the Discord chat, benefit of being on Dub Club. But by shopping around there and trying to figure out where you can save money, cut every corner you can, right? Clip every coupon you can. That's how we're doing it here, by shopping around, finding the best prices, finding the best boost, etc. And if you don't have BetUS already in your repertoire, make sure you look into them today. 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits up to $2,000. Again, link in the show description.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
This is where we usually wrap up with a late game. And we are going to wrap up with the Padres, but they're actually on the East Coast in New York. We always talk about San Diego being a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, and it absolutely is, especially night games, May and June, with the way the weather works there, the like fog or whatever the heck is, the air gets thicker and the ball just doesn't fly at all. People may not realize it, but Citi Field in New York is actually potentially maybe even more pitcher-friendly than San Diego is, and especially on a very cool June night. And obviously you do see some cool nights in June in New York City, but we're getting to the point of the year where this is about as cool as it's going to get. It almost is going to feel more like an April or May, a warm April night, a normal May night. Mid-60s, wind will be blowing in at over 10 miles an hour. A slight chance of rain could delay this, and what that's going to do is just make the temperatures cooler and cooler. If the game gets delayed a little bit, it's going to play very pitcher friendly in there. You can see that adjustment of negative 16% is a lot of adjustment down on the number of runs here. Otherwise, the Mets offense hasn't quite performed up to that number 14 rating, but they definitely have the potential to it. Manaea has been very okay, and the Mets relievers are concerned. The Padres relievers are concerned, and the Padres offense is a concern. There's a lot of reasons you could be concerned about runs here, but again, this is all about the park in this situation. And these types of nights, it's almost like we've been talking about a lot here for the Seattle series, where it's like, man, when you're still getting cool temperatures at pitcher-friendly ballparks, wind blowing in, you got to really look hard at it. I love what Matt Waldron has done, knuckleballer who's really found it this year. 3.76 ERA, 3.26 FIP, 3.91 xFIP. Again, we've talked a lot at previous shows about Manaea. I think he's very okay and can have some success in that pitcher-friendly ballpark. But Waldron's been a revelation for the Padres and turned into potentially their best pitcher in a year where they've had a lot of their better pitchers injured or struggling and or both, other than I guess Dylan Cease is the only other one. It's really been these two guys carrying the load. And of course, as I mentioned before, the Padres have really struggled this year against left-handed pitching. I don't know if that's going to continue here. I don't know if that'll if that's real or if that's just noise, but hey, it can only help us. It can't hurt us. So if they struggle against the lefty Manaea, hey, that helps us out even more. We're going to go under 8 as we're projecting more in the mid-7s. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love the under 8 here. I think the Mets offense is terrible. I think there's something going on in that locker room with what was the reliever, and then it was Lindor just taking strike 3 with a bat on his shoulder, not even raising it up. Like, there's something going on there. I know we can't quantify it. You want to base your whole bet off that, but you add in the Padres struggles against lefties, the knuckleballer, which I don't think you don't see that very often. Knuckleballer. Like,
no, I think he might be the only guy in the league doing it now. There used to be, it seemed like 2 to 3 guys every year who were doing it, you know, and obviously Wakefield was one of them. But there's always another guy or two who was messing with, there's R.A. Dickey for a while, and Sparks was doing it for a while. There were multiple guys. Now it's like he's the only guy that's thrown a knuckleball in the last many years, it seems like, who's actually been up there and continued to pitch, not just been a spot starter kind of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, you're not ready for that, and it's going to be different. It's going to be that's a tough pitch to hit anyway. And when it's on, it's nearly impossible to hit. So are already struggling Mets offense, and then the Padres struggling at a pitcher-friendly park, cold night. I think it's a great way to load up on this under.
Yeah, so someone who's played baseball in college, still plays, the old man leagues today. I can testify for you. Hitting a knuckleball, your goal is basically get one that doesn't move much. You basically think, okay, I'm going to swing at 3 strikes, and one of them is going to kind of hang a little bit. But as you said, if the knuckleball is really dancing, you're not going to make solid contact. You as a hitter, you're just going up there hoping that you can get in the ballpark and it kind of hangs right where it does. But you never know if at the last second it's going to, jet somewhere else, and all of a sudden you're going to hit a 5-hopper to the second baseman. And so it's very difficult pitch hit when it's on. And for the most part, Waldron's been doing really good with it. We had the under in the Padres game here earlier this week on the show. We had the under 8 in a game that was cruising to the under. It just went over a little bit at the very end, a game that got the 4-4. And so, of course, our under 8 was lost. And the Padres, I believe, walked it off in the 9th inning. It was one of those games where I think we kind of, we had the right read on it. And we mentioned the same thing that the Padres might struggle against lefties. And sure enough, they did, as they didn't score many of the runs until the very end. I see the same sort of thing here. Doesn't mean that the same outcome will happen. Doesn't mean that we'll get the luck back that we lost on that one here. It, again, as we mentioned before, might be a situation where you look at first 5, avoiding these bullpens is a good thing. I will point out, though, that Edwin Diaz, it was supposed to have been activated today. I didn't see if that was happening. He was maybe activated Monday. Was he activated?
I didn't see it.
He was.
I've got him on our fantasy.
No. There you go. Yeah, he was going to be activated on Monday, and then it was Monday, and there was pushback, and there was like, no, it was going to be Wednesday, and then now it's going to be. So I don't know exactly when he's coming back. He sounds like his rehab stuff went well. Other than that last little blip where he was apparently injured, he's been really good. That's going to really turn this Mets bullpen around and take them from very bad to average. So that's something to keep in mind. If that actually happened or not, I don't even know, because I feel like I'm being rope-a-doped here with that story. No. But you could look first 5. You could split your bet. Again, the first 5 projections and that discussion can happen over on Dub Club. So anybody who's with us over there, we can get all the information. You try to make the smartest bet possible. We're going to give out the official pick as the under 8 here, as I think that makes a lot of sense at the -105. But the first 5 might be a really good play as well, just because both of these teams can get a little bit kind of crazy later on. But as always, again, all about the price. So again, remember, shop around. And again, extra information over there on Dub Club, try to help you make the best bets. Jake, parting words to take us out.
No, I mean, I'm just excited to be back on the show talking baseball. Like, if you're looking for something, Dub Club is amazing. It pays for itself in the first couple days you're on it, for the most part, with very relatively small bets. And if you're looking for just one more free play a day, make sure to give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. We give out the first 5 extra credit play of the day. Just give us a follow, like there.
Yeah, I'm a terrible salesperson. All y'all are better than I am. But again, a bunch of benefits, a bunch of plays everywhere, trying to help people out. And hopefully, if we're helping you win money, you would consider join us over there on Dub Club. A lot of people join, have a lot of fun, find a lot of value in it. Like you said, it can pay for itself in no time. We got a bunch of WNBA plays over on Discord as well. So the only way you can get there is through the Dub Club. And so, again, check that out if you have not yet. Otherwise, though, we thank you for watching. And as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.